Well, let me just. I've said already hello to everybody, and as traditionally, I'm greeting everyone who came here to meet Moshe Levin, whom I dare already to call my friend after traveling together around Lithuania. He's a great man, really, and I believe he's becoming a real friend of this library, and not only personal friend. Great speaker, and he will tell himself, if he likes, about his experiences, but the topics of the lectures are announced, and I've got some apologize from people who are not able to make it today to the library, because it was very short notice, and it's working hours right now, and even Israeli embassy is sorry.
No problem. Let me take it from here.
But we will be filming it, and we will put it online in a while, and topics are great. So we can start, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
So here's Moshe Levin from San Francisco, Rabbi. Information was given.
All right.
Welcome to the library.
Thank you very,
very,
very
much.
The
floor is yours.
It's an incredible pleasure for me to be here. But the first thing I want to say really is, we have a choice. Either the mountain comes to Muhammad, or Muhammad goes to the mountain. Which is easier? You are the mountain. I don't want to be so far away from you. So do you want to come closer, or do I push this table close to you? Because I don't want to be so far away.
Let the mountain come.
Okay. So now, yeah, that would work for me. And I don't know why you're sitting in the back row. The orchestra, we have seats in the orchestra, and they're not more expensive tonight. So David, come on up over here. And you know what, I would always make a suggestion for the future that the seats are in the round. Even if you have a lot of people, there's a different feeling that you get when you are actually in a semicircle. And the first difference is that when you're in a auditorium style, you're expecting everything to be happening up here, and you're just sitting there like, entertain me. But when they're in a bit of a semicircle, there's a different feeling, a different energy. We realize it's an interaction. And I want it to be an interaction. Especially, I don't really know who you are, what interests people have, and I'm leaving tomorrow on a plane at 6:10 in the morning. The plane takes off. So this is going to be my opportunity until I return, which I hope will be soon, but it might not be so soon. So really, please feel really free to come close and we participate. My name is Moshe Levin. I've been a rabbi for a long time. I was raised in the Orthodox world, Lithuanian yeshiva type, and I grew up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I started my Jewish education with general education, kindergarten, and right through yeshiva, Yeshiva Parkway, Yeshiva of Crown Heights, Rabbi Jacob Joseph, Yeshiva Yaakov Yosef, a Lithuanian rabbi. He was the first chief rabbi of New York, and I was on a smicha track as a rabbinical ordination, but nothing I ever expected to pursue. I had no interest ever in being a rabbi. None. I wanted to be an artist. I was painting in oils at the age of 8 years old. My parents gave me lessons, and that was my passion. And I was misdirected. I'll tell you very quickly how. I was I think around 10 years old, 11 years old. And one of my parents' friends, my father's friend, I don't remember his name, but I remember he's this big because I was that big. He said to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" which you always ask kids, at least they did then. And I said, I want to be a commercial artist. Why a commercial artist? Because already at that point I knew that there were great artists who were poor and hungry and starving, living in a five-story walk-up in the left bank of Paris, and they died penniless. So I didn't want to be like that. Commercial, I knew, meant business. So I said commercial artist. And the man said to me, oh, no, you don't. It's a very anti-Semitic field. Now, I came later to know what he meant. What he meant was, they didn't hire Jews very much in that field. And if you did work in a company like Walt Disney or whatever it was, that employed commercial artists, it meant that there were people who would maybe talk to you, they would tell jokes about Jews. That's probably what he meant. But at that age, I just learned about the Shoah. And anti-Semitism meant to me that the Nazis come to Yareva and they put you in a ghetto in Kovna if you don't get shot in front of the house, or you're gashed to death. Because I saw photographs of my father's family. My father came from Yareva, and with photographs of his brothers who went to Slobodka, and their wives and their children, who were my cousins. Now my father was younger than they were, so they were a little older than me, but they looked, how old did they look in the pictures? 10 years old. So anti-Semitism scared the hell out of me. And like a drop in the bucket, or a flip of the hat, I gave up my passion of being an artist. And after that, I did not know what to do with my life. For years. I just went to school and I studied with my friends, etc. And I was a good Orthodox boy. There were times I wore a black hat. I never had payas because we were Lithuanians, Misnagdim. We were opposed to the Hasidic movement. And also when I was about 15, 16 years old, I wanted to go out with girls and went to the movies, and we had a television in my house. So we were modern Orthodox. But I still didn't know what to do with my life. And when I was 19, I went to Israel for a summer. I fell in love with the country and the feeling there. All of a sudden, I felt at home in a place that I had never been in. I did not know the language because we were taught prayer book Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. We weren't taught to speak Hebrew, and I didn't know, the climate was different, everything was different, and yet I felt home more than I was in Brooklyn, because in Brooklyn, inside the house, it was a very traditional Jewish home. We had Shabbat and we sang songs around the table and everything. I waved a little bit of etrog for Sukkot and everything. But the moment I walked out onto the street, it wasn't my world. Even in a neighborhood that was so intense, had so many Jewish people, and also had Irish people and Italian people and the Polish people, etc. So outside in the street, it wasn't Shabbat. Outside in the street, it wasn't the holiday of Sukkot. Outside in the street, it was America. And especially wearing a yarmulke, I always felt like a minority. So when I got to Israel, and all of a sudden I looked around, and I said, all these people, they're all Jewish, and if they like you or don't like you, it has nothing to do with being Jewish. It's because they like you or don't like you. If you're rich because you're I don't know, made money something. If you're poor for that. If you're a policeman, you're because you want to be a cop. If you're a thief, because you want to steal. But nothing had to do with being Jewish in terms of identity. I was home. And I sent my friend from yeshiva, who came with me for a little summer vacation. I sent him back alone. I said, I'm not going with you. I'm registering at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem as a student. And I called my parents. To this day, I can't figure out how they said yes. But I stayed in Israel. 1 year, then my younger brother came. And the second year, then my father got very sick. Very sick. He had cancer, he had heart disease. And I'm the Bechor, the firstborn. I came home. And my younger brother stayed in Israel. Why? What's the difference between why I came home and my brother stayed? Partially because I was older and he was younger. So our father became so sick and he died. But why did my brother stay in Israel and I came home? My brother met a girl. That was it. And he went to Bar Ilan University. They got married later, and so on. And he's still in Israel. So that's actually a big shift in our life. My father died. It was a terrible tragedy. He was a young man. He was only 58 years old. And as an Orthodox Jew, the first thing I did was go to shul to say Kaddish. But I just got married. And so I didn't live in that neighborhood in Brooklyn. I lived in a neighborhood which was had Jews and Italians. And it was a newer neighborhood. And the Jews weren't very practicing. And I went to the synagogue to say the Kaddish every morning and every evening. And there were men around me, never women, not on the weekdays, men around me, and they didn't know the things that I knew. And the rabbi was from Europe, I'm sure not Lithuania, and took no interest in them. He was in his own world. And I begged him to give a class, teach something. He said he's not interested because they are not interested. So I started giving a class, and that class grew and grew and grew. And one day I got a call from another group. They were starting a conservative synagogue, not Orthodox. And we're going to talk about those differences. And they said, we heard about you, will you come and help us? I did. I was going to New York University, NYU Law School, because I didn't know what to do with my life, so you could stay in school. So I started to help them with building this new congregation, and I loved sharing the richness and the beauty of my upbringing with Jewish people who didn't grow up with it, not in that way. And then I decided this is what I want to do. And I became a rabbi, and I moved from the Orthodox movement to the conservative movement, only because the Orthodox movement in those days was not interested in bringing anybody else in. The conservative movement was really American. It was a movement born in America. And they understood the American mind, etc. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. That's what I embraced. Since then, I've continued to move also. I'm not so aligned with that. And that leads me to tell you what is the situation of the different religious movements in the American Jewish community. I'm not going to tell you the statistics of how many Jews there are and all that sort of thing, because of two reasons. My passion is about ideas, not about statistics. And that's the second reason. The first reason is, if you go online, there was an outstanding report on the American Jewish community that was done by a non-Jewish research group, the Pew Survey of Jewish Americans. It's the second one, quite recent. It was based upon an analysis from February in the year 2013, so 2.5 years ago, that ended in June 2013. And in that, then they put together all their material, and they have it down perfectly. And even though it's like, I don't know how many pages, they have an overview, a condensed version, you can read in 15 minutes. And it tells how Jews identify, how many children they're having, what's the intermarriage rate, etc. In the very short form, I would say, intermarriage is up. Interfaith marriage, I mean, in the Jewish community. Affiliation with Jewish institutions or synagogues in particular is down. The majority of Jews in the United States call themselves Reform. That's not the majority, I'm sorry, that's the highest number. 35% call themselves Reform. 18% call themselves conservative. 10% call themselves Orthodox. And then there's about 5% that call themselves some of the other movements, which we'll be talking about in a moment. And then there's a significant percentage of 15% or more who say, I'm Jewish by birth, or my parents are Jewish, but they don't identify themselves as Jews, although some of them actually are members of synagogues. A little strange. Now, that's my introduction. What I plan to do is outline for you the different movements, or the spectrum of different religious movements in the United States, and try to explain the differences and the similarities between them. But before I do, I want to turn it over to you and ask you to comment in any way you would like about what I've just said. Is this of interest to you? Do you have something else you're interested in? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is it too elementary for you? Is it too advanced? I don't know who you are, so I do know and feel honored to know, privileged to know Dalia Epstein, who's a Landsman, because she actually was born in Yanova, where my family comes from, but moved to, she upgraded to Kovna, and then after the war came to Vilna.